Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Nelson, and I'm excited to be sharing my Project A leadership case study for MUE 623, 632, Supervision of Music. When I think of a great leader, Mary Smith, name change for confidentiality, comes to mind. She served as the fine arts director and my direct supervisor at the private school where I spent my first 4 years of teaching. Mary consistently implemented the coaching style of leadership by taking time to supervise me, communicating a genuine interest in me, developing an ongoing personal conversation with me, allowing feedback to flow organically out of her regular conversations, and equipping me to achieve her high standards. First, Mary demonstrated evidence of the coaching style by taking time to supervise me. At work, I never felt like she was too busy for me because every time I walked into her office, she stopped what she was doing to interact with me. More importantly, though, Mary did not hide in her office. She was regularly in my classroom, observing me teach, praising my strengths, and offering suggestions for growth. When she wasn't in my classroom, I observed her model the execution of effective instruction by directing rehearsals for the school's theater productions. Second, Mary demonstrated evidence of the coaching style by communicating a genuine interest in me and the other members of the fine arts faculty. Her relational investment in each of us developed a sense of camaraderie among the team and helped us learn to collaborate well. One Christmas, Mary hung multiple stockings outside of her office. Each stocking was labeled with a different name of a fine arts teacher, and a nearby sign invited students to leave notes of appreciation inside the stockings. Mary's intentionality made us feel valued and loved, not only by the students, but also by her. Third, Mary demonstrated evidence of the coaching style by developing an ongoing personal conversation with me. As the choral director, my office was adjacent to hers, and we shared a door. Every Monday, when I arrived at school, Mary would catch me on the way in and ask me about my weekend. Eventually, I followed her lead and began initiating this morning conversation myself by popping into her office to say hello or to ask her about her grandchildren. This ongoing conversation with each other established better rapport and trust between us regarding both personal and professional issues. As this trust deepened, I learned to respect her professional decisions, even when we disagreed. Fourth, Mary demonstrated evidence of the coaching style by allowing feedback to flow organically out of her regular conversations with me. Because she spent time developing a relationship with me, I was not afraid or defensive during these conversations, and I viewed her feedback as an opportunity for growth. During one conversation, Mary pointed out ways I fell short in handling a classroom management situation with a student. After addressing my need for growth, though, she helped me put together a plan to better address the student's behavior and clarify my expectations moving forward. Fifth, Mary demonstrated evidence of the coaching style by maintaining high standards, but equipping me to achieve them. She was patient in walking me through the procedures she had established for our department. She taught me how to submit a purchase order and bus request. She read through and responded to my communication with parents. She evaluated my lesson plans and accompanied me on field trips until I was confident enough to execute them alone. Specifically, she traveled with my choir every year as they performed at the Biltmore Estate, and she walked me through procedures for planning the first team-building beach retreat for my students. While Mary consistently implemented the coaching style of leadership, I believe that she could have grown as a leader by implementing aspects of the visionary style of leadership. The only time we discussed the vision of the Fine Arts Department was at the beginning of the school year. She could have improved her leadership style by regularly reminding her teachers of the big picture vision throughout the school year. Mary could have also grown as a leader by implementing aspects of the democratic style. At the end of the school year, Mary would give her teachers goals for professional growth in the coming year, but we as teachers were not included in the process of choosing those goals. She could have improved her leadership by inviting her teachers into the goal-setting process. Transitioning to elements of supervisory activities and supervisory skills, it was interesting to reflect on how Mary spent her time as a fine arts director. In my opinion, the supervisory activities that should take the most time are the activities that involve direct interaction with teachers. 30% of a fine arts director's time should be spent facilitating professional development, subdivided as 15% dedicated to supervising teachers, 10% dedicated to in-service training, and 5% dedicated to acquiring and organizing professional resources. Mary aligned well with my thoughts on this category, spending 15% of her time supervising teachers and 5% of her time acquiring and organizing professional resources. However, she only spent 2.5% of her time conducting in-service training for her teachers, resulting in a total of 22.5% of her time being spent facilitating professional development. She should have spent more time leading arts-specific training for her teachers. However, this issue is larger than she, as the head of school may not have given her any opportunities to implement these workshops. Another area involving direct interaction with teachers is developing curriculum. In my opinion, a fine arts director should spend 15% of his or her time developing curriculum, subdivided as 5% for program curriculum and 10% for individual teacher and student plans. Mary did spend 5% of her time planning program curriculum, but she also only spent 5% of her time developing individual plans for teacher growth. She should have spent more time following up with teachers on their progress in attaining these goals. In total, she spent only 10% of her time developing curriculum. Next, in my opinion, a fine arts director should spend 10% of his or her time organizing for instruction, subdivided as 5% on scheduling, 2.5% preparing the physical plant and facilities, and 2.5% cataloging the inventory. Mary spent too much time cataloging the inventory, 5%, but she spent the right amount of time scheduling, 5%. She believed that the fine arts director should handle the logistics of an event so the music teachers would be free to spend all his or her time preparing the students musically for the event. This philosophy was executed beautifully in our department, and the students flourished as a result. However, difficult relations with the operations department caused Mary to spend 15% of her time preparing physical facilities for learning. This added time caused organizing for instruction to dominate 25% of her time, leaving little time for other supervisory activities, including public relations. I believe that a fine arts director should spend 10% of his or her time in maintaining public relations, with the time split evenly between publicity and marketing, 5%, and meetings with stakeholders, 5%. Mary did spend 5% of her time publicly marketing the department by speaking at concerts and sharing with the audience the successes of each program. However, time spent preparing facilities kept her from interacting with stakeholders through personal meetings. She spent only 2.5% of her time on this activity, for a total of 7.5% of her time devoted to public relations. In my opinion, budget issues should only take 5% of a fine arts director's time. The budget doesn't involve direct interaction with teachers, and many schools have a dedicated finance office. During Mary's time at our school, though, a high amount of transition in the finance office caused all of the department heads to spend more time than necessary working on the budget themselves. This took 10% of Mary's time and kept her from other supervisory activities, such as managing the private lesson studio program at our school, a function of her position that should have taken 10% of her time, but only received 5%. I agree with the amount of time Mary spent on her remaining supervisory activities. 5% on developing resources, 10% on staffing for instruction, and 5% on using support services. I've put together a graph that shows you how Mary did spend her time. Let me pull that up for you. And you can see here the data that I put together of how Mary actually did spend her time in blue and how I thought she should have spent her time in green. The biggest difference is with the physical plant and the facilities. Okay. I'm back. If you were to ask Mary which skills are most important to the development of future fine arts directors, she would choose skills that involve direct interaction with teachers. As a result, I've rated the following skills at a level 6 on this assignment: facilitating and advising individual professional development plans for teachers, improving recruitment, selection, and assignment of instructional personnel, supervising and evaluating teachers and professional staff, planning and conducting in-service training programs, and improving working arrangements and relations between staff and the public. Mary always valued people. She believed that when leaders invest in their teachers, the teachers will invest well in the program. Mary would also argue that skills central to the implementation of high-quality learning strategies are important. As a result, I've rated the following skills at a level 5 on this assignment: developing program curriculum, improving availability of learning resources, improving organizational structures to facilitate instruction, and providing support services. Mary would place less of an emphasis on writing individual education plans for students because our private school did not have an accommodations program. I've rated this skill at a level 1 on this assignment, and I'm going to share my screen with you one more time so that you can see the data I collected on this. We go down here. This is the way I believe Mary would have rated the supervisory skills. You can see staff development, hiring, supervision, and public relations are the highest, and that creating IEPs is the lowest. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Taylor Nelson, and I have enjoyed sharing Project A from MUE 653 with you. Thanks.